Okay. Okay, hello everyone. We are now live. We have a few people here joining us. Those who are joining us, please say hello. I'd like to know who is chatting with us. Today's live session is going to be about the 2-question discussion essay, but sometimes you're going to get more than 2 questions. Okay, and so the example I have actually has more than two questions, but this is the final type of IELTS essay task that you'll get for IELTS writing part 2. You have five different types of essays. You have the opinion essay, where you're asked to basically whether you agree, to what extent you agree or disagree on the topic. Then you have 2 views essay, where you're supposed to talk about 2 different views on a topic and decide basically which one has more validity. Then you have the advantages and disadvantages one, where you're supposed to talk about the disadvantages and advantages and then decide whether the advantages or the disadvantages outweigh the other. And then there are I mentioned 2 views, advantage, disadvantage, problem and solution type essay as well. And that's where you talk about the question, brings up an issue, asks you about the problems for that, and then asks you what the solutions might be. So, hello, Sonam, nice to see you. Oh, we have someone from Bhutan. Welcome. Welcome, Sonam. Okay, we have a few more people here. Do say, those joining us, do say hello. I'd like to know who you are, where you're from. And at the end, I am going to have a question and answer period. I ask that you keep your questions to the topic of IELTS writing, particularly the essay. Now, I was talking about the 5 types of IELTS essays. I mentioned the previous 4, and this is the 5th type of essay that you may get for IELTS writing task 2. This is where you have basically you have 2 questions or maybe 3 questions that you need to answer. And so I'm going to show you exactly how to plan and write with examples for this essay type. Now, some of the slides, you probably, if you've joined me before, if you've seen the videos before the previous weeks, some of the slides are the same, but that's only because they are there to help other people understand some of the concepts that I'm talking about here, because I go through the entire process of planning and writing this essay. And so, and this is essentially for more information on planning and writing. I really refer you guys to watch the videos, the previous live sessions I've done here on where I talk about how to write, how to plan your essay, how to understand the essay prompt, how to write the introduction, how to write the body paragraphs, and how to write your conclusion. Watch those videos. If you haven't watched those already, watch them again for review. And then if you haven't, watch them. And the ideas that I present here, when I talk about all the different parts, all the planning, right, and then writing the different parts of the essay will make more sense. So I really encourage you guys to do that. Okay, so again, those who've joined, please say hello. It's really nice to have you guys here and watching these videos and joining me. I really enjoy it. It's and I have fun with it, and I hopefully you guys have fun too. So, and if you want to watch, the videos that I've already talked about before and our other videos, I really encourage you guys to watch that. We have videos here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and I really encourage you guys to follow us there, at those three sites. Again, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. And do comment on our videos, like them, share them. And the more people that we share our videos with, the more people benefit. And that's our goal here, is to help everyone we can prepare for IELTS. Okay, so now let's get started. So now, discussion essays. This is essentially what it is, discussion essay. So the expectations for this essay are, you need to provide clear answers to both questions. If there's more than 2 questions, then you need to provide clear answers to all the questions, okay? That's really important. You need to provide answers to all the questions. Now, then you want to answer each question in detail using the following things: specific reasons, specific examples, and then of course you want to use specific details. Okay, that's really important, because if you're not specific, it's going to be difficult to understand what you're trying to say, and you won't be saying much. You're not going, so you need to be very specific. Okay, and the more specific you are, the more you have to say, and the easier it is for others to understand you. Now, you have to write a 250-word minimum. That means no less than 250 words you're expected to write. I really encourage you guys to write more than 250 words. And don't bother counting words. It's a waste of time, and you don't have time to count your words. Okay. What I really want you guys to do is focus on the quality of your writing, not the quantity. If you focus on quality, you will exceed the 250-word minimum and write a really good essay. Okay, that's what I really want you guys to focus on. Now, what you need to do next is you need to have clearly written paragraphs of appropriate format. You need to have paragraphs. If you don't have paragraphs, your score for coherence and cohesion will not rise above 4 band scores, band score 4. So it's important that you have paragraphing, okay? And you need to use the appropriate format, which is this: an introduction, 2 body paragraphs. Now you might need 3 depending on the essay prompt, okay? In this case, how many questions do you have? If you have 3 questions, you'll need 3 body paragraphs. And then your conclusion, all right? Now, the time allotment here is you have a total of 40 minutes. So during the first part, the first 0 to 8 minutes, this is your planning stage. Now, try to get through your planning as quickly as possible, all right? That way you have more time to write. After that, after 8 minutes is time for your writing. And so you have 30 minutes to write. I recommend that. And then at 38 minutes, you stop, or you should finish by 38 minutes in terms of writing, and save 2 minutes at the end to proofread your work, okay? The examiners do expect you to proofread, edit, and modify your work as much as you can, okay? And it's really important, because if you make mistakes and you edit your work, you can eliminate those mistakes and help get yourself a higher score. So that's important. Now, the tip is, and it's possible to finish early in writing. If you finish early, so let's say you finish, say, within 35 minutes, use the rest of that time, the entire 5 minutes, to edit your work, okay? Really do that, really edit your work. That way you will eliminate all your mistakes, as many mistakes as you can. We have some more people. Do say hello to the people who's joined us. Do say hello. I'd like to know who's joining us. And if you have questions, please post them. And I ask that your questions be related to the topic, which is IELTS writing, specifically the essay. And I will have a question and answer period at the end. Okay, let's move on to the next part. Now, the next step, what we want to talk about now is planning the essay. This is important. You cannot write a good essay without planning. So planning is key. Planning is key to writing a good essay. So the first thing you want to do is understand the essay prompt. Okay, hello, Beyond. Nice to see you. Thank you for joining. Now, let me get back to this. Planning the essay. Step one is understanding it. It's really important. Sometimes the way it's worded, you may not understand it. So if you watch my video from about a month or so ago, about 2 months ago, it was about how to understand the essay prompt. Watch that video. And I go into detail how to do that. Okay. So if you don't understand what I'm talking about here, watch that video. The next step is to rewrite the topic. So, and the reason why you want to rewrite the topic is, first of all, it helps you understand the topic much better. And also it gives you something to play with as your introductory sentence for the introduction. Okay, so rewrite the topic. Then step two, write your thesis. This is your opinion about the topic. Okay, this is now for writing the thesis on this type of essay. There's something special that you want to do, and I'll explain that in just a little bit. Now, step four is you want to brainstorm. In this case, you want to brainstorm reasons for that answer each question. Okay, so again, brainstorm for reasons that answer each question. And I'll talk about how many reasons you need to brainstorm for the essay. And then the final step is to organize your paragraphs. Okay, and so let's take a look at the thesis. What do we want to do? How do we want to write our thesis? What are we going to base our thesis on? So here, consider that your thesis is always based on one of the questions, okay? For example, is this a positive or negative development? That's a common question in this type of essay prompt, okay? This type of essay. Is this a positive or negative development? Or you could get, is this a positive or negative trend? It may not always come up, but this is more common than not, okay? So this type of question is what you would base your thesis on, okay? So for this example, you must decide whether it's a positive or negative trend. And when you decide, is it a positive or negative? Well, I think it's positive. Then your thesis is, it's a positive trend. It's that easy. Okay. Now, keep in mind the question is almost always, I've never seen it otherwise, but the basis for the thesis is generally the final question, the last question. So keep that in mind. That's another key thing to remember. The thesis is based on the final question. Okay, so now let's go on to brainstorming, because we have to consider something about this, something to consider for brainstorming. Now, remember, you need to come up with specific reasons for each question. Okay, specific reasons that really answer the question. And so I recommend that you have 3 reasons for each question. Now, you could have 2. I really recommend 3. And one reason why I recommend 3 is it's going to get you above 250 words. And that's what you want to do. You want to go beyond 250 words. Remember, 250 words is the minimum that you want to write. You want to write more. Okay. Now, why? So I gave you just one reason, but one of the most important reasons is it will make your thesis stronger and better supported, okay, if you have 3 reasons, okay? And then, of course, what I just said about exceeding the minimum word limit, okay? So if you write 300 words, that's fine. If you write 350 words, that's fine, okay? As long as you stick to the topic, you will do fine, and you could end up writing a really great essay that could score you 8, 9 bands even. So keep that in mind. Remember, focus on quality, and having 3 reasons is quality. It shows a quality of writing when you have 3 reasons here, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, step 1 for planning is understanding the essay prompt. So let's take this essay prompt. News plays an important part in most people's lives. Why is it so important to people? Why is so much news dedicated to bad news, and should news focus on good news instead? So we have here, our first sentence is basically a general statement of the topic, and then we have a series of questions. So this one has 3 questions that we need to answer. All right, so when we want to understand the essay prompt, we want to first understand the topic, the basic topic, and that is the reporting of positive and negative news. That's the basic topic of the essay. Okay. And then we want to look at viewpoints. And you can have 1 viewpoint, you can have 2 viewpoints, you can have as many as 3. And in this one, we have 3. And it's important to understand the viewpoints because you need to mention them in your essay, particularly in the introduction. So first viewpoint is news is a crucial part of daily life. Second, journalists are focused solely on negative stories. And 3, the news media should also report positive stories. Okay, so those are your 3 viewpoints. And remember, you need to have the basic topic and the viewpoints included in your introduction. Okay, and I'm going to show you how you do that too. Now, step 2, this is where we're going to do that, paraphrasing the topic. So here's the paraphrase for the topic. Informing the public about important events and information is the role of journalism, and yet the news media seems to primarily report negative reports. Shouldn't it also report positive stories as well? If you read that carefully, you have the first part of the sentence talking about the importance of journalism. Okay. Then the next part where it says the news media seems to primarily report negative. That's the first viewpoint and then the question there is really even though it's written as a question, it's voicing that third viewpoint. So that's what you have here. All right. Now, step 3. Step 3 is our thesis, writing our thesis. So in this stage, try to keep it simple, a short phrase. Don't try to write a full sentence. I generally write a full sentence for you guys so it can be clear for you. But write a short sentence or a short phrase or a couple words, one word. Okay, so news companies need to include positive stories. That's the thesis here. Okay. Now, step 4, we want to brainstorm for points. So as I brainstorm, I'm going to think of the questions, the 3 questions. So question 1, question 2, question 3. So under question 1, I have the purpose of journalism. Question 2, negative stories is a problem. Question 3, must also report good stories, okay, positive stories. But that's not all the reasons. Now, question 1, need to report bad events. Question 2, one reason is sensationalism. And that's a good vocabulary word for you, sensationalism. And then another reason for question 3 is can inspire the general public. Question 1, sorry. Third reason is to inform the public. The third reason for question 2 is inform public of such news. So we're talking about negative news. Question 3 must also report goods benefits society. Reporting, so the idea here is reporting positive news stories benefits society. And then finally, there's one more reason for question 1, public can take action, okay? So those are the brainstorming of the points. Now, deciding on the order of paragraphs. This is how I suggest for this particular essay prompt, how you would organize the essay, the paragraphs. So question 1 will be body paragraph 1. Body paragraph 2 will be about question 2, and body paragraph 3 will be about question 3. Okay. So now let's move on to the actual writing part. So our first step with writing is our introduction. So our time to write is time to write. So our introduction. Now the elements that are required, for further information, go back and watch the video I did over a month ago on how to write an introduction. It's here on YouTube. I really encourage you guys to watch it. All right, so the elements that are required are a topic statement, thesis, main points, or outline statement. So I have 2 examples here. The first example is this. Informing the public about important events and information is the role of journalism, and yet the news media seems to primarily report negative stories. Shouldn't it also report positive stories as well? Okay, so that's the first sentence, and kind of that covers all 3 views. Then the next sentence, ideally, journalism should offer balanced reporting, and there are several reasons for this. So this is setting up my thesis. And then the final sentence, this essay will discuss, and that's the outline statement. The outline statement is talking about how you're going to proceed in writing the essay, and that's important. And that's something if you don't want to write all your main points, you write a outline statement, okay, like this. Example 2 is this. People are surrounded by news everywhere. General statement about the news. Moreover, many reporters and journalists seem to focus on negative stories instead of positive news. Okay, so that's view 1. Why is this so? Now, it's okay to ask these type of questions in your introduction because they help set up the introduction. So why is this so? And then it asks another question. Shouldn't they rather present stories that are essentially positive in nature? And then finally, this essay will explore these questions. All right. So that's a very simple outline statement, but those are 2 examples of how to write your introduction for this type of essay. Okay. Now, let's go on to our body paragraphs. Our body paragraphs, and for more information on how to write a body paragraph, go back and watch the video, the live session I did on body paragraphs about over a month ago. Okay, so here, body paragraphs, we're going to need 2 to 3. Remember, 2 to 3 depending on the number of questions. So in our essay prompt, we have 3 questions, so we'll need 3 body paragraphs. So, and again, the rule of thumb here is one body paragraph for each question. Don't mix them. Don't mix them. Now, the order, you want to start with the first question. For this one, I always suggest you start with your first body paragraph should be devoted to the first question. It shows a logical order, a logical sequence, okay? And that's important because you need to be able to score high in coherence and cohesion. You have to show a logical sequence, logical progression in your writing. Now, the suggested type of body paragraph to use is a multiple idea paragraph. And I discussed that again in the body paragraph video I did couple months ago, over a month ago. Now, this is the suggested format of how to write this type of body paragraph, okay? So the first sentence, you make a general statement about the topic raised by the question. Then you want to give, the second sentence, you want to give your first reason. Then your third sentence, you want to explain the reason. So use details or an example. Then the fourth sentence would be your second reason. Fifth sentence, your explanation. Sixth sentence, a third reason, if you have three reasons, and I really recommend that you do. Your seventh sentence would be the explanation. And then you want to give a conclusion of how, why these are, how these answer the question, how these reasons answer the question, okay? So that's the format that you want to use. And again, body paragraph 1 is on question 1, body paragraph 2, question 2, third body paragraph 3, question 3. And so let's look at our body paragraphs for this particular essay. So we have, this is our first body paragraph. I'll give you some time to read this. So the first sentence is basically a statement about the role of the news in society, and highlights the importance for the importance for reporters. The second sentence provides an example, and then the third sentence explains the example, and then the final sentence here gives a conclusion. So by reporting such stories, public can take safeguards. So this is about the usefulness of news. Okay, now let's look at the second body paragraph. So our example here is about negative reports. So I'll give you some time to read this. So again, if you guys have questions, feel free to post them and I will answer them at the end of this presentation. Hopefully you guys are getting benefiting from this. Okay, so now, again, our first sentence is basically a general statement and gives examples of some bad news, negative news. It gives this next sentence gives a reason, and then goes on to explain the reason. So, here we're talking about sensationalism. Then we have another reason is to educate about difficult situations, to educate the public. That's the next reason. And then it gives an example of the corona pandemic, COVID pandemic. And then it makes a conclusion. So when reporting about negative events with the intent to inform and educate, so this is making a conclusion of why it's important to to report negative news. Now, let's look at our third body paragraph. Okay, so our third body paragraph, will give you time to read this. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so again, this paragraph follows pretty much the same pattern as the previous two. And we have our general statement about the topic, it goes through the reasons and then ends with making a statement of how positives, a conclusion of how journalism, reporting positive news can be beneficial. Okay. So now what's the next step? Anyone know? What's the next step? What's the next thing we want to write? Our conclusion. So let's look at that. All right, so the conclusion is our final paragraph, of course. And so again, watch the video on how to write a conclusion. And I go through this step by step, exactly how to write it. But for now, know that writing a conclusion is a 4-step process. Okay. Step 1, you want to begin with some type of connector. For instance, you can say to conclude, in conclusion, in closing. But remember that your essay is an academic piece of writing. So we need to make sure that the connector we use is formal in tone. For example, we don't want to say in a nutshell. That's informal. But we can say to conclude, in closing, for instance. Now, step 2, we want to restate the thesis. And what we want to do is we want to paraphrase it. We don't want to use the same language that we use in our introduction. If you do that, you will lose in terms of lexical resources, meaning vocabulary. Lexical resources is one of the criteria for scoring in writing. And being able to paraphrase is one of the key things that you need to be able to display, show that you're able to paraphrase in order to score a band score of 7 and above. Okay, so really learn how to paraphrase. Now, step 3, you want to, somehow I got advantages and disadvantages. Sorry about that. Step 3, you want to summarize the reasons behind your thesis. Okay, just summarize the reasons behind your thesis. And then step 4, you want to give an additional opinion or call for action. Again, I apologize for that, this editing error. Step 3, again, you want to summarize the reasons for your thesis, behind your thesis. Okay, and that's it. So now our conclusion is, for this particular essay is, so now I'll give you a chance to read this. Okay, so the first sentence is basically a general task about the entire topic. And it's combining reporting of good and bad events. So it's basically taking the whole idea that reporting should be balanced. This is because such an approach can benefit society. That is the reason for that's summed up in my third body paragraph. So basically that whole sentence is a summary of my reasoning in the third body paragraph. And then the the third sentence here is focusing solely on negative stories is wrong. It should be balanced. That's my thesis. And then the final sentence is basically an additional opinion. Both have their place. That's kind of a restatement of their opinion. And journalists should be mindful of this. So I'm suggesting that journalists should, the news media should be mindful that you need to cover both good and bad stories. Now, if you notice the words in italics when considered in the light of, that is a connector. That whole phrase is an entire connector, okay? So it's basically kind of a way of saying, when we look at the discussion as a whole, okay? So if you're skilled in writing, you can use longer phrases as connectors, but if you're not that skilled, it might be better off to use more simpler connectors. But don't be afraid to try out different ways of creating new connectors, for example, okay? This shows an element of style, and this is also another factor of being able to score 7 and above in lexical resources. So don't be afraid to experiment. I really encourage you guys to do this. And as also for connectors, I did several months ago. It's for speaking, but it equally applies for writing. I really recommend that you watch the video that I did on signal words and phrases. That's what I'm talking about in terms of connectors. Watch those videos. Watch that video. It's really important for both writing. Those are really important for both writing and speaking, because they signal the important information that you're trying to convey, that you're trying to communicate, but more importantly, they link your ideas. They connect your ideas, okay? And so watch that video. All right, so now let's move on. So now our expectations here again. Remember, you want to provide clear answers to all the questions. You want to answer each question in detail using specific reasons, specific examples, specific details. You want to write 250 words minimum. Write more, focus on quality rather than quantity. You want to have clearly written paragraphs of appropriate format. So introduction, body paragraphs, and conclusion. Okay, so that's it. Do you guys have any questions? Now is the time to ask questions. So I ask questions be limited to IELTS writing for right now, particularly the essay. Next week's, since I've covered all the essay prompts, next week I think I'm going to give some general tips on essay writing. That's what I'm considering for next week's live session. Do you guys have anything that you want covered for next week? Because I think the tips, there should be some tips for that you guys should be aware of, and they're in general. Now I've talked about how to write the essay, but in each essay, and so you guys now have the knowledge of how to handle all these types of essays. But there's some things I think you guys can really use, and so I want to impart that knowledge to you guys. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So I want to thank you guys for joining me, but now I want to talk about my IELTS tutor. Now my IELTS tutor, you see here, it's the live premium training, live online premium training, and it's superior premium training. And the reason why I say this is, first of all, these are all the things that you get. But more importantly, it's much better than a brick and mortar institute. And that's a good vocabulary term for you, brick and mortar. So that's an institute where you go and you sit down and you're in a classroom with 20 to 30 other students, but you're not getting the attention that you really need and that you really deserve. With my IELTS tutor, we have small group sessions for reading, listening, and writing. We have individualized speaking, so one-to-one speaking sessions. We can also offer you individual solo training for all 4 modules if you like. We'll set you up with a trainer such as myself, and you work exclusively with that trainer on all 4 modules. Now, what's the nice thing about this is you get more attention. You get the attention that you need. Where in a brick and mortar institute, you don't get that type of attention. You don't get the feedback, as much feedback as you would like to have in a brick and that we offer our students. Another thing that we offer each student is a customized study plan. And what that entails is you get, what we do is when you come to us, we assess you, meaning we test your abilities in all 4 skills, all 4 modules. And so we come up with a plan that will work on improving your weaknesses and enhancing your strengths. And so what we do is we tailor make everything we do, our strategies and everything is designed to help you score 8 bands and above. And so that's what the customized study plan is all about. And so now let me introduce you to the primary tutors for my IELTS tutor, myself, 𝐂𝐐𝐓𝐀𝐃, and Ms. Amita. And together we have around 30 years of experience, and we've literally helped thousands of students reach their goals with IELTS, literally thousands. And all of us are certified with IDP. We have years of experience and we have knowledge. For example, I used to write IELTS tests, reading, writing, listening, speaking. So I know IELTS inside and out. I know all the tricks of how to answer all the questions. So that's the level of experience you're getting with us. Here are some of our recent results from students. And as I said before, we tailor our training so that our goal for you is to score 8 bands and above. And we're committed to that. And we're going to do everything we can to help you achieve that score. So that means that your bands are our responsibility. That's right. Your bands are our responsibility. So that's it. That's it for now for this week's session. Thank you for joining me. I want to encourage you guys to follow us here on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. Be sure to like, comment, share our videos and all of our content. And if you want to know more about my IELTS tutor, click on the button below and a representative will get in touch with you as soon as possible. That's it for now. I'll see you guys next week.